Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Big shout out to Isaac Mather for the new podcast intro. You can check Isaac's music out on all socials or directly at isaacmathermusic.com.
Okay.
Matt, I haven't talked to you in a while. You've been
'Cause you all-
gallivanting all.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're gallivanting all over.
Well, I was going to say you were, but I guess it's my turn now, huh? Yeah, it's the weird winter break our school has. I don't know why we just shut down for a week in the middle of the winter. But coaching was done, and usually I'd be traveling around watching softball games. That's been kind of sad. So we just took a different spin on it with New Orleans and Biloxi and now Jacksonville. And then, but
Cool.
I wanted to touch base quick. How was your Super Bowl experience?
Oh, it was neat. It was as neat as you'd think in terms of it being first Super Bowl in Las Vegas and just being a wild place, and just a lot like cool stuff. They don't do anything. Super Bowl doesn't do anything, you know, halfway, and neither does Las Vegas. So you combine the two of them and you get quite an experience. But I'll tell you, the game itself, I've said to many people, I'd much rather watch it at home. You know, it was full of I'm sure great people in the stands, but it was noticeable how little energy there was for the game itself. You didn't have the average fan there. You didn't have the people who really the people who are behind their team, and I mean, is the average fan going to afford a ticket to the Super Bowl? Um, I thought it was lacking in energy and a passion behind the teams, and the game itself. That because I've been to so many football sporting events in my life, couldn't between running arenas I couldn't even count. But there's a passion in the game. There it was, and I was sitting next to two guys and telling this story. This is a little bit of maybe I think an anecdotal example, but I think it's kind of funny. I was a guest, with Subway, but I was with some other franchisees, and one of the guys to my left was a French Canadian, and the other guy to my right is well, he's out of Arizona. He owns a bunch of restaurants there, but he's from India originally, and neither one of them had ever been to a football game before, let alone a Super Bowl. So I learned more about cricket, I think, than anything, which was fun. It was great. They're great guys. Like I enjoyed the heck out of it. But I think you get a lot of people who were more there for the event, which is cool, and not your traditional fan, and that's just priced out of the fans element. It's not what it is. So that part was unique. So anyway,
Can you tell the story about that gentleman?
oh yeah, I think
You
I don't see
told
why I
me.
couldn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you told me, and because we run across people all the time that think they can't have what they're aspiring for, or
Yeah. He was an interesting story. He owns, I don't know, it's got to be pushing 200 subways at this point. Great guy, just and smart as you know why. But I was saying to Paul, I don't know, last week or whenever the other day, but he has a PhD in some sort of engineering or some sort of science. Okay, and I've known him for it's got to be a couple of years now, and I mean just the hardest working person. I've been with him. When I went to the Masters, he was there, and I didn't know this. I spent 4 days with him there. I didn't know this, and I've seen him at conferences and that kind of thing. And I always enjoy his company, and he's a good operator and good businessman, And but I just found out while I was at the Super Bowl, not even from him. In fact, when I brought it up to him, he kind of gave me like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll have shucks." But he's a PhD in it's engineering, but I think it's a specific type. But he invented for some company the curve TV, that curve that you get on a TV, and he didn't get into too much. Um, I think because he's a very positive person, he didn't want to say anything negative. But I think ultimately what happened is, number one, Paul, he realized he can invent the coolest things in the world and he's still not going to make any more money. He was he was getting paid, I think he said about $500,000 a year or something like that. And he realized though, like I talk all the time and I'm in a room full of these people, like that it's not only could he make way more money owning his own business, but he talked about the freedom he had to do it. Now, but that said, so he left that lifestyle and started working. He went and co-owned a convenience store with another gentleman. He was telling me how he's mopping floors at 2 and 3 a.m., on Friday, Saturday nights, and he's going, oh yeah, I'll never forget it. He's going, you know, was this worth it? Should I be doing this more or less? Should I be doing this? Was this the right move? But then saying, well, this is my store. This is my life to build. I'm in charge now. Even though I'm mopping a store at 2, 3 a.m., and presumably, although he didn't say so in so many words, not making a fraction of what he was making for whatever, I don't know if he was working for Samsung or Zenith or where that technology came out of. But um, then he said, now here he is, he's going, I couldn't even, I make so much more than what I made, that 500,000 now, and I have the freedom, and I have ownership, and I have, all these other things that go. It was just, one of those moments, Paul, where I sometimes this morning's one of them where I go, my gosh, why do I do what I do with some of the things that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to deal with, and you don't want to, but you do because that's what you signed up for, and that's part of it's part of your lifestyle. It's who you have to become if you're going to do this. Um, and then you hear stories like that, and it reminds you like there's not a better option out there. It may have less headaches. There's plenty out there with less headaches, but boy, does it miss in so many other important ways. Not even the money part, but boy, does it miss in so many other ways. So it was super interesting and cool, and to hear someone who could have had a wonderful career in life doing that, saying, "My gosh, I'm so glad I made that move." Just a cool story.
What I like about it is he had a 9 to 5, or I don't know if you call something like that a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
but that the standard 9 to 5 like career. Nothing wrong with doing that. You did it.
Yep.
Well, yours was
It
like a
was, yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. It's like a 9 to 9.
I've done it. He did it. What's your exit ticket? Like, at what point do you want to try to understand the perspective of not having that by doing something that you're in complete control of, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You eventually took the jump. The jump for me was COVID, even though I still teach. I don't call that your standard 9 to 5. I mean, you teach, you get it.
Yep.
But as my wife and I we're on the final steps, finally all the hurdles to closing that commercial property. That's all we talk about, what we're going to do with it. And
Yeah.
the funny thing at first, we talk about, gosh, what if this happens? What now we don't even talk about that. We just know we're going to make it happen. And
Yeah.
that's the control you have that you talk about, and the fun and the freedom, right?
100%.
We'll have days like you're having a day today,
Yeah.
right? And it all gets balanced together. I just love that story. I wanted to shift gears about the gentleman I met in New Orleans at the French market.
Yes. Yes.
Guy's just pedaling, he's I'm watching him, everybody that goes by, hey, you want to check out my book? Hey, you want to check out my book? And it blew my mind, the people that just walk by. So when I walk by, I mean, I would have anyways. I'm like, I absolutely want to check it out. He's like, yeah, I wrote it. It's basically about my life in the hood or growing up in a rough area of town. I've changed some of the names, I was incarcerated for 7 years. That's when I started writing. And we get
Wow.
talking and talking. And I'm like, well, you need to come on this podcast, my friend and I have. I explained our stories. He was like, hell yeah, I want to come on your podcast and meet people like you. But the interesting thing is when he wrote that, he had the confidence or the accountability to the consistency. He called it a trilogy, and he's only written the first book.
Oh, wow. Really?
So he's almost done with the second one. He's got them all named. But you talk about holding yourself accountable. He's already
Mm.
talking about his trilogy, but he's only published the first book. He
I,
says
I,
he sells quite a few every day, but he's just out there a couple of days a week. You know how those markets work. You just got tables of vendors and vendors, and he sits there, and if it's slow, you see him typing away on his computer. Every time someone walks by, it pops up, and I don't know, $30, $40 a pop, whatever I paid for it. He could be selling 100 books a day.
right, right, exactly. Yeah, I
He's
mean, if
working
he's
on
ma-
his social media, but I give it like, how cool is that to meet people? These people are everywhere if you open your eyes.
yeah,
Like
right, right.
not just owning hundreds of subways, but
Exactly. They're
this
right.
this guy might be the next well-known author. He might not be, but it's his out too.
Well, I mean, if he's selling $30 a day and he's working, I'd hate to say he's working 5 days a week. Let's give him six. I feel like a guy like that's working 6 days a week, So if he's selling or $6 a week times 52 weeks times 10 times 30, I mean, that's $93,000 a year. I have no idea if that's what he's doing. I don't know. Maybe he's doing more. Maybe he's doing less. Maybe he's working more. Maybe he's just selling what he wants to pay his rent. I have no idea. But
I have no idea either, but it's really
well,
cool. But
we
but
got to
again,
talk to him.
but again, you wouldn't be where I always used to ask people, like, would you go back and change anything? The tempting answer is always to say yes to your younger self, but you wouldn't be where you were if you didn't have your experiences, right?
Yeah, none of us would, right?
Same with him. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the biggest loaded question that instead
Yeah.
of instead of going back to change it, just realize, be grateful you changed.
Yeah. Paul, I think the only caveat I'd have to that is the one thing that I see in so many people. It's this. Um, Gosh, I just saw something on this too recently, but this isn't that didn't trigger this thought. I've noticed this for 20 years, maybe more. This idea that I'm going to wait till everything's perfect before I take action. And so the one caveat I have to that is people who go, I'm thinking of a couple people right now I've been working with for years who go, well, yeah, then I wouldn't change anything. So I'll just keep doing what I do. And then when I'm ready, I'll take action. Like there's a balance. I guess what I'm getting at is a balance between I wouldn't change anything and oh, all the stars will align and tell me when it's time to take action. It's like no, you take action now and then you figure it out. You take action and then things will align. Things don't align for anyone. Things aren't ready for anyone. Like Paul, you could have done what everyone else did at COVID. Clicked on Netflix and popped a bottle of wine and we were given an excuse not to do anything for the first time in our lives. So literally, society, the government was telling us, stay home and do nothing. Now, I didn't have that option because I had subways to keep, from going bankrupt. But most people were told, yeah, your paycheck wasn't stopping, right? Right? Most people were given not only was a paycheck not stopping, they were given more money to do nothing. And what did most people do? Absolutely nothing, right? Went backwards. And you didn't. Was it because the stars were aligned? No, your situation didn't become better because of that. You just decided hey, it's time for me to take action on these things. So when I say regret, the only regret I ever have, Paul, I didn't start sooner. That I didn't have the gut, and that wasn't because things aligned for me someday. It's because I didn't have the guts. It's because I was scared. It's because I was afraid. It wasn't a case of all of a sudden things fell into place for me and whoops, now it was time to go. It was I got sick of making the excuses, and I got sick of playing the game of pretend of, well, next week or next month or next year things will be better and then I can do it. That's my only caveat there.
So there is a perfect time to start.
Yeah,
Yesterday.
now. Yeah,
Yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah, yeah.
So that's a great point. Like you wouldn't trade your journey, but you wish you started it sooner.
Exactly.
I was just having this convo. I still think education is one of the best professions to get into
Yeah.
if if you want to do other things, because look at the
Mm-hmm.
time I have. But
Yep.
what do most teachers do?
Blow it. Waste it.
Yeah,
Nothing. Nothing. It's
especially if they don't
Paul,
have kids.
you're right. Like one, sometimes it's easy to pick on education on some of these, but we're never picking on the educators ever,
Right.
or rarely. I mean, of course, there's some bad educators, just like there's some bad police, just like there's some bad business owners. You know what I mean? There's bad doctors, bad nurses. That's not our objective. It never has been. It never will be. I'm sure we're not picking on the educator at all, and virtually 99.99% of the time. I'm sure that's never our intent. It's the system we can, I'm sure we both look for improvement from. But to your point, I look at a great opportunity. Number one, there's safety and security in it, which we all want, even me. I mean,
Right.
that's why I do what I do, because I think it is safer and more
Hmm.
secure. That's one of the driving forces. So, but it gives safety, security. There is that opportunity for a pension. There is insurance. There is a plan that you can count on every week, right? When you're going to be there and when you're not, right? As far as being a teacher. So, what does that provide you? A known canvas, a known opportunity that I can work from. I'll just say 4:30 to 9:30, Monday through Friday. That's 5 days a week. That's 24 hours a week. Plus, I have Saturday and Sunday, not once in a while, but my entire life free to do these other things. Plus, I have the summers. Plus, I have X amount of vacation days, or whatever we call them, holidays, or most people don't have that kind of plan. And I'm not saying there aren't other things, but I'm just saying, all in all.
Again, my caveat to that will be me not starting till I was 25 gave me this perspective. If I came right in out of college, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep.
there's like you don't want to become institutionalized. Think about it. If you go to school and go to college, then teach, you've never been outside the
Yeah.
institution and
So true.
you don't see it any differently.
So
Uh,
fair. So good.
but
Such a good point.
I almost was teachers weren't allowed to teach till they worked for 2 years or
Yeah.
1 year or six. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. Now they have summer jobs, kids, and but I just think, one of our four pillars, everything we've been talking about today is perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective will wrap up perspective of being at the Super Bowl instead of watching it on TV.
Mm,
Perspective of a guy making $500,000 a year to mopping floors to owning hundreds of restaurants, right?
yeah.
Perspective of real world before teach. Perspective of COVID was the jumping board for some of us. Perspective that you should have started yesterday.
Perspective from the gentleman who is writing the book, who's living a life, was in jail and not in jail, and I can't imagine. I mean, you did say that you think we're gonna have him on, right?
Yeah, yeah. We'll wait till
Can't wait.
it'll be sometime in the near future
Yeah.
when I'm done traveling and you're done traveling.
Right. Right.
But you know, you have to have your journey. And it's not gonna be perfect. But hey, boy, you have to take that action at some point.
You do. You do,
And
regardless of what it leads to, because that's going to give you, it's going to give you so much. And gosh, the people, I know people are scared of that stuff, but boy, you hear about it all the time. There's always that on your deathbed, what are you going to miss? And there's always that. Well, it's not going to be the money or the working for someone or the hard work. And I get that. There's truth to that, but it's generally the things you didn't, chances you didn't take and the opportunities you didn't do. And again, I think that sends the wrong message as well. It's like, okay, so don't work then. You're right. You're not going to miss, you're not going to think about work. You're going to think about, you wish you had more time with your family. Okay, quit your job and just go spend time with your family and have fun all the time. You're 20 years old, go do that. See what life looks like in about 6 months when you can't pay your bills,
right.
when you have no income, when you have no meaning, when you have no purpose. Go look. So that I hate that message too. It's so one side. It lacks perspective.
It's the same thing when young kids are smoking. You're like, oh, you're going to die from something someday, anyways. Yeah, I understand that, but there's a falseness to that. So,
Exactly.
hey, so if people get anything out of today, it's the perfect time is yesterday. I mean, now, of course,
Yes.
but
But
no
you're
sense.
already too late. It's already,
Yeah.
or not too late, but you're already behind. So get
You're
going.
already behind.
Yeah.
You're already behind. Hey, if you didn't get a chance, Dr. Phil was on the Joe Rogan show.
Yeah, I heard. I watched, or I listened to it when I was driving up to Watertown.
Okay.
The other day.
I
Plenty
just
of time.
finished it. I just finished it on my morning walk today. There were a lot of neat things about perspective in there.
Weren't there?
Yeah.
Weren't there? Yeah. Yeah. It was a
Oh,
good episode.
all right, man. Hey, till next time, we'll see you.
All right. See ya.